Welcome to the Album Anniversary Podcast. Today's show is about So Far From Home by Brave Saint Saturn. It was released June 20th, 2000, so it is celebrating a 25-year anniversary. I'm your host, Caleb, or Caleb the Spy on social media, and every day on social media I post about what I call album anniversaries. So, on the Album Anniversary Podcast, we take a look at a classic album, an album we love, or an album that's important to us on the anniversary of its release date. Albums on the show do often focus on alternative rock, punk, and my strange obsession with ska. In the 90s, I was super into the Christian music scene, so that comes up often on the show, and it's been coming up more and more on the show, so sorry if you don't like the Christian music. I'm not putting out shows for you. What a bummer. Anyway, today I'm joined by Paul and Robert, and we're going to break down, again, So Far From Home by Brave Saint Saturn. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I try and start with kind of a little bit of an intro question. And Paul, I know you haven't been on the show. We'll have to have you back for another episode, maybe just by yourself, and you can kind of go through your musical history. I like going through that. I think, Rob, we got into yours a little bit on the Me Without You episode that you joined me for. My question is, have you guys ever seen Brave Saint Saturn live, since we're talking about them?
I mean, I as far as I know, they only played a few shows live back in the day, and they might have been at Cornerstone or something. So no, I have never seen Brave Saint Saturn. I have seen Five Iron Frenzy twice.
Okay. Rob, have you ever had a chance to see Brave Saint Saturn before?
No, I never had that chance. Nope.
Okay.
Same as Paul. Saw Five Iron Frenzy 2 or 3 times at this point, but no, not Brave Saint Saturn.
So I feel lucky because I did get to see them once, and
Tell us about it.
Well, I mean, I don't know that I wasn't ready to talk about actually the show, but it was at Life Fest, so they were at a festival. It was a year I was living overseas, so I was back for a summer, and Five Iron wasn't playing the usual festival I go to for summer festivals, so we drove to a different one where I knew they would be, and then it was a late ad. Brave Saint Saturn did a set, and it was interesting. I don't believe the second album was out yet. I think it was just this album. It was interesting because, and I think Reese would admit this, he's not necessarily a great musician. I don't think that's something that he kind of, when he talks about music, he kind of focuses on the lyrics and the singing. And so it was an interesting, you could tell they had not practiced a lot. At one point during one of the songs, he messed up pretty good, and he is like away from the mic, just shouting at the rest of the band, "I'm sorry." Like, because I think he had messed up bad enough where I think all the rest of them were like confused about what to do next. So they had a good time with it, but it was an interesting experience for sure.
Awesome.
You can see on YouTube, like there's a couple things on YouTube if you go, and you can see Reese doing some of these songs, just like him and an acoustic guitar. There are a couple sets that I have seen on YouTube. So if you ever want to see him just doing some of these, you can find them, but they're not the most amazing quality, but there's some out there. I know I have a couple bootleg things that I've gotten here and there of just him doing acoustic sets. And then I have an acoustic version of one of the songs that Dennis does on the second album too. So I've found a couple random things here and there. So, but yeah.
Cool.
So then Paul, you're absolutely right. They are not a band that has done a ton of shows. It's probably less than 20. So, I mean, it's a very small number. Do you guys know, are there any bands that you've seen you're like, wow, I can't believe I actually got to see them? Or like, because it was just, there are bands like this, right, that just don't do a lot of shows. Have you ever had that experience where like, I actually got to see these and it feels like this, I can't believe this just happened sort of situation?
Well, I don't know if this counts, but when several of the members of Me Without You couldn't go on a certain tour, or something was going on with the band internally. I'm not sure exactly the details of it, but they went on, Mike and Aaron Weiss, the lead singer and main guitarist, his brother, and a scattering of other random performers went on a tour called the Weiss Family and Friends Tour. And so, it was a tour, but a small tour, and it only happened one time, and it was fun to catch that and hear some it was a lot of cover songs. It was a lot of like stripped down or acoustic or reinterpretation of Me Without You songs. And
Hmm.
that was pretty special. That was cool. I got the t-shirt from it. I treasure it. I got the tour poster from it and I treasure it because it was just that one little summer blip and then never happened again.
Yeah, for
Nice.
sure. Paul, do you have any experience like that of just kind of seeing something you're like, oh, I can't believe that happened?
Yeah. So there was a band. Do you remember Watashi Wa?
Yeah.
They kind of broke up, and out of it came a new band, Eager Seas.
Hmm.
They made one album, and they had a dispute with Tooth and Nail, so it was released as a Watashi Wa album, but it was
Hmm.
supposed to be a new band, Eager Seas. They did a tour with, they were the opener, so it was Eager Seas, Love Drug, Acceptance, and Copeland. I saw them in Seattle.
That's a cool
Okay.
lineup.
Yeah, and I came kind of for Copeland, but Eager Seas and Love Drug stole the show right at the beginning. And it was a great show. And they kind of went away from that sound they were doing. I mean, it was kind of a pop rock, but very full sound. So I liked that. It was, they changed their name to Lakes and then kind of faded into obscurity and went bluegrass, I think, something like that. They changed their sound. So I saw an iteration of a band that had to change their name because of a label dispute.
Hmm.
Interesting.
That is cool.
So
Yeah.
if you look up the Eager Seas album, it's under the name Watashi Wa, and they tagged on one of the Watashi Wa songs onto the
Okay.
album, like Tooth and Nail did, because of a contract dispute. So it wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be an Eager Seas album, a new band.
Interesting. I mean, it's funny, the whole idea of like a tooth and nail dispute does tie into Brave Saint Saturn, and if we ever cover the second album, I mean that was a contentious album. Tooth and Nail fought Reese on it on a number of things from it, and there's a reason
Mhm.
he has some reservations about working with Tooth and Nail in the future. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's mostly smoothed over, but I think he does have those reservations. So not the first band I've heard of having contentious relationship with Tooth and Nail. Awesome. Well, with that out of the way, I say we jump in and we tackle this album.
Let's do it.
Independence Day, 2nd of May. Lost my best friend and a fiancé, so I will hold this candle high. Independence Day, nothing I could say could sway you not to sabotage your liberty. Can rest on high.
So we're talking about, again, So Far From Home by Brave Saint Saturn, again, released June 20th, 2000. I don't know exactly where I got that date, but I feel pretty good about it. So June 20th, 2000, again, a 25-year anniversary. This was the group's debut album, technically, on 5 Minute Walk. And it ended up being the first album in the Space Saturn trilogy, as how I've heard it referred to. Although I will be real honest, I don't know if Reese had all of that worked out when he jumped into this. If he thought it was going to be a trilogy, it'd be interesting to know. I get the sense that he didn't. He had kind of maybe an idea, but didn't maybe have it all mapped out quite at the beginning.
Yeah, I think I found an interview while planning for this and thinking about it. Might have been on Jesus Freak Hideout or something else where, yeah, he said, "Yeah, we're thinking about a trilogy," but and then a later interview, I think also on Jesus Freak Hideout, where he's like, "Yeah, I had no plan."
Yeah, I get the sense that this was more of just, let's give this a shot. And I don't know, I could be wrong, but I feel like it might even also been a bit of like Frank Tate realizing 5-Iron was kind of his cash cow at this point. I mean, and the later stage of 5 Minute Walk really becomes all about 5-Iron. And maybe it was a chance to like, let's see if we can get anything else out of this. Let's see if we can, Reese, you want to do some other songs that are not maybe 5-Iron focused? Well, let's give it a shot. And I kind of wonder if that's a part of this too, that just kind of came out of it through that. But I don't know. I'm making that up. That's pure speculation. Sorry if I get that wrong.
Is this pre-Roper or post-Roper?
Pre. Yeah.
This is pre-Roper.
Because
Okay.
Roper is after the end of 5-Iron. That's right what he transitions into. Also a Tooth and Nail tie-in for that, from what I've heard, that he was going to do that Guerrilla Rodeo thing. and that fell through because they got connected to Tooth and Nail, and Reese didn't want to do it, so he bailed.
Oh,
Him and Frank got together, and then they put out that Roper album, and it just didn't have the legs they thought it would. And I've heard he still has boxes of Roper t-shirts in his basement because he couldn't sell them. So if you can get a hold of him, he might be willing to sell you a Roper t-shirt. There's no way I could fit into a medium anymore, so I can't buy any. So this was produced by, I always say Saki. I know that's not his actual real name, but I always call him Saki because that's how I always heard them refer to him. He produced all of Five Iron's records before their breakup. He also produced a vast majority of the 5 Minute Walk. I mean, that's the vast majority of his credits are 5 Minute Walk related. He was also in a band called Rivulets and Violets, is how I want to say it. They produced at least a couple albums on 5 Minute Walk. He owned a studio called One Way Studios, and that's where a lot of the 5 Minute Walk records were produced and recorded. All right, so we're down to the last little bits of facts on this because there's not a lot out there on this. I just am going to call out some of the folks on this. So again, Reese is the main focus of this. Keith also played bass on it. Dennis plays guitar on it, and Andy plays drums. But there are additional musicians. Like Scott Kerr fills in on guitar on one of these. Saki fills in on guitar. He does some strings. Big Lou, the accordion princess, she is on this, and she was also on at least one of the 5 Iron records. I think All the Hype the Money Can Buy, she's on there. Micah fills in on the turntables. A person named Monica Smith is on background. And then Eric Wood fills in on, I think, about half the drums. Maybe it's a little less than that. So Andy didn't do all of the drums on this. So there are a number of additional people. And then a guy named Tony Lucido, I'm probably saying that last name wrong. It looks like he plays on bass on at least one song. So there is a variety. So it's not just Reese, Keith, Dennis, and Andy. There are some additional musicians all over the place. Or not all over the place, but it's, not a huge crew, but that's kind of where it is. So that's kind of who's on this record.
It is a little all over the place as you go song by song. I mean, there are, okay, this is the accordion or squeeze box song, right? This one has a lot of strings in it. This one has DJ scratches. It's a mixed bag, but it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll add, I guess, as we're at the front of the show is, I'm sure maybe you guys know this, but they were originally called Astronaut. That was the original band name before Brave Saint Saturn. And obviously there's probably like a million bands named Astronaut, so they decided to change it, which is a good choice. But there were a couple early like compilation albums that had a couple songs under the name Astronaut. I think a song called Albatross.
Yep.
And some other early songs before they switched names.
Yep, I have that Albatross one. I don't know where I got it, but I have it in my collection, my random collection of junk that I've collected over the years. Yeah.
There are a lot of musicians on there because there are a lot of sounds.
Yeah, there are a lot of sounds.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of musicians.
I think it is another example of it too, where it starts as this kind of one person side project, and then it's like, oh, actually, I kind of need some help. And then it's like, oh, I actually need more help. And then actually, do you guys want to just be in this band with me? Because I mean, in the end, especially this one, it's just the four of them. And it really feels like a 5 Iron. I mean, it is a 5 Iron side project. It doesn't feel like it's this whole new thing. And, there's a working relationship. Obviously Reese and Keith have been best friends since 7th grade, I think they say. So, I mean, it was probably pretty easy for them to work together. So
it does sound like they're trying out a lot of different sounds and trying to kind of find their sounds.
Yeah.
And they do find, we could talk about that, but they do find some sounds that they build on later on the later albums.
I agree. I think it is a bit of a, what do I want to do that's not this 5 Iron thing? Like, I get the sense of that. And I think one of the great examples actually is Dennis's song. And I know we'll talk about songs in a bit, but I distinctly remember when that Fireworks song came out, because then was shortly after this, his solo project was announced as well. And I remember feeling like this, oh, so it's going to be more like that. That would be really awesome. Because that was kind of, and it's very similar to that sound, just, different style, or the same style, just it's all kind of worship music. So, but yeah, I remember that feeling of oh, I hope he builds off that. And he kind of did. it does have it feels very similar. And that one is impossible to find online anymore. I have no sales data for this. I saw a couple reviews. I have no idea how this sold. I have no other real like those standard facts that you can get like from like a Bob Dylan record. None. There's no critical acclaim long term for this. There's no like life changing thing. So that is kind of the end of my research. It feels really light compared to some of the albums we do on the show, but that's it. Is there any other research or any other tidbits that you guys have turned up in looking for this or getting ready for this?
I would say that I highly doubt there's another podcast about this album.
Yeah, good point.
You're probably breaking ground here.
That is true. Well, we'll see. Anything for you to add, Rob?
Well, you know about the Wizard of Oz connection to this album, right?
No. Okay, well, there's another tidbit.
Wait, hold on. Am I misremembering? Hold on.
Are you thinking of Pink Floyd, where if you
No,
you play So Far From Home along with while you're watching Wizard of Oz?
No, that's what it is. So yeah,
perfectly.
the second Jesus Freak Hideout interview with Reese, it was either right before or right after Anti-Meridian came out. They were asking about how that album, the third of the trilogy, came about, and he said he wanted to do it all tied in with Wizard of Oz or something like that, and the band members were like, "No."
Oh man, that's funny.
So there's like one or two lyrics that crept through something about like an Emerald City or something that I forget what song it's on, but anyway,
I wonder Fortress of Solitude is my guess. I think there's a reference there.
That sounds right.
Yeah. Oh man, that's funny. There actually is a weird Wizard of Oz connection. Who would have thought?
Mm-hmm. I got bad news for you, Caleb. Sorry to cut you off. Are you familiar with Magnified Pod?
Oh, did they do it?
Dude, they did.
They did one.
They did a little side episode when they were
Good
going
for them.
through 5-hour discography, doing all the Breaks and Saturn albums.
I'm
Bummer.
not shocked. It's okay. They're
Hey,
cool
being
guys.
second is not bad.
They're good dudes.
Yeah, they're from here, or one of them is. I mean, I've seen one of them at a show, so I'll allow
Maybe
it.
we could chill. I might cap somebody or kick 'em in the grill. I'm the DJ, he's the rapper, and the homeboys try to stand. I'm the DJ, he's the rapper, in the valley of the shadow of death.
How did you first discover this album?
I'm not sure. I know I heard Space Robot 5 on some kind of compilation.
Okay.
And I don't think it particularly grabbed my attention the first time I heard it. I think how I got it is I used to post on a music forum, Decapolis. It was kind of Christian alternative. It was started by the guitarist of Goaty Hook, Conrad. And so people would sell their CDs. And they'd like put a post like, "Hey, I'm selling these 50 CDs, $3 each plus shipping or $5 each plus shipping." And so I got a ton of music that way. I'd heard the name. So I'm pretty sure I bought it used off some guy, who knows, in Pennsylvania or something. And he sent it I grew up in the Seattle area, so he would have sent it to me. So I think that's how I got this album.
Okay.
It could be that I had the second album first. Because I listened to that a ton.
Okay.
And got my friends into it. So I'm not sure on the timing, but I got it. I listened to it. I played it even for some of my friends. I was in a youth group and we ran a fireworks stand fundraiser that made no money, and I made the mix CDs.
Okay.
I was that kid. So I put the fireworks song on all of them.
Nice.
It was like the theme song.
The theme song of the fireworks stand. I love it.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Rob, how about you? How did you discover this album?
Oh man, I don't know.
Wow, two I don't knows.
No, for real, yeah. I think so. It was definitely a bootleg website like LimeWire or Kazaa or something like that. I was late to getting into 5-Iron Frenzy. I didn't see them live until their farewell tour, the Winners Never Quit tour.
Sure.
And yeah, at some point I was like just like starting to become this completionist that now I'm really into about music I'm passionate about. And so I started like finding everything that Reese Roper was attached to, right? And so yeah, I definitely downloaded, bootlegged the second album first,
Hmm.
and then went back to So Far From Home, and that was all before Anti-Meridian. And I can't say uh I'm not a true fan. The only piece of actual Brave Saint Saturn merch item I have is the Anti-Meridian CD. I don't own any of these except for probably the same MP3s that I downloaded years ago that have just gone from iPod to iPod.
Oh, interesting.
Well, I had a shirt,
I have two
right? A
that
Brave
I've had
Saint
at some
Saturn
point.
shirt.
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
Did you buy Anti-Meridian like pre-order it from Reese?
Yes, I
'Cause-
did.
Okay.
Yeah, by
'Cause I know
that
he
point I
sending
was
them out.
I was all in. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I pre-ordered Anti-Meridian, and yeah, I remember receiving that CD in the mail, I think in college.
Yep. College. Oh boy.
I'm a bit younger than you, a little bit. I know we've talked about this, Caleb. Come
I
on.
think I was married when Anti-Meridian came out. In fact, I know I was.
I think I was in college too.
That's funny.
I mean, all my CDs would come to my little dorm, and the mailbox was too small, so I had to pick them up at the front
Yeah.
desk.
Oh, funny.
Oh, you got new CDs, huh? I'm like, yeah, more CDs.
That's funny. All the front desk people got to know you as that guy. That's
The
hilarious.
guy that was always getting CDs from weird band names.
Yeah. Why don't you listen to normal music?
That's right.
Haven't you checked out Creed?
Don't you know Switchfoot?
They're so accessible. Call back to a joke that I've already edited out.
Not sure how to edit out.
Oh, funny. So I will say for me, by 2000, I am like Five Iron has been my favorite band for at least 3 years by this point, because basically after Upbeats and Beatdowns comes out, I'm all in on Five Iron. I mean, if you listen to the show, you know. I mean, so I don't feel like I need to go into that, but I'm all in. So I knew this was coming out. I don't know how. I can't remember how they announced it, to be totally honest. If it was
I was
just,
going to ask, do they promote it through Five Iron channels?
I would think so. So I think I ordered it. I think this is 2000 is when I started getting CDs in the mail, because I do remember we covered it on All the Hype the Money Can Buy. That was the first CD that ever showed up to my door in the mail, and I remember being so excited. And this came out essentially 2 months after that. So I'm assuming I ordered it through the 5 Minute Walk website as well. Like I had ordered All the Hype the Money Can Buy. And so I'm assuming this came to my home address, because school is out. Because I got this when I was in college. So I feel really confident I got this that first week or so, and it was probably mailed to my house. But I knew it was coming. I was so all in on it already, even before hearing any of it, because I was so in the bag at this point for Five Iron. So I know this was, a day one. And I know this was something that then became there's a couple albums that became like that summer. So All the Hype the Money Can Buy came out. And so I know I played that nonstop. John Rubin's Debut came out like in the kind of the end of the spring of the 2000s or 2000. So I know that was a summer album that I just played nonstop. This was another one that I think that summer of 2000, I think it was those three were kind of constantly in rotation for me, because I was so into all three of those. So that's kind of my early connection to this album.
That says that she could be anything she wants to be. She only sees what she is not. Disbeliever, underachiever, disconcerted with the way things look from here. Disinclined and disinterested. Nothing in your world stays clear.
So what is it that you love about this album?
I love that it takes the lyricism of Reese that I already love and presents it in a pop rock way. It takes the joys and the sorrows and loneliness and the heartbreak of kind of like those heavier Five Iron tracks and kind of extrapolates them and pulls them out and makes a story around it. And I don't want this to sound insulting, but I love that it lays the groundwork and an expectation of maybe the future
Yeah.
Brave Saint Saturn albums, which are more cohesive and focused and, kind of build more in that story work framework of the USS Gloria and all
Yeah.
that. But no, it's great. It's got some great anthemic choruses, some very catchy, melodic little earworms that you'll just find yourself kind of humming throughout the day. And no, it's just a fun record. It's all over the place. It's diverse, but in a good way. A little scattered, but
Yeah.
yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I think it's good to acknowledge that there are moments on this that if you don't know Reese coming into it, you'd be like, what is going on? Like, because there are some odd choices. There's some baby steps here that I think I think it's fair to acknowledge that this was Saki and Reese trying to kind of figure out what to do at times. So there's some production moments even that you're like, what are they trying to do here? And I think they had visions of it, but it maybe didn't know how to execute it. So I think that's fair to acknowledge. And it is, there's a lot going on. So I think that is I think that's a fair comment to make. Cause I think if you don't come into this having some Five Iron background, you'd be like, what is going on here? Cause it is a unique album in that regard.
Yeah, to have that background is important. At the same time, you should not have Five Iron expectations.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's a little, you have to hold it with an open hand.
Yeah. Yep. Paul, what do you love about this album?
So to be quite frank, I like this better than any Five Iron album.
Whoa.
I'm a Brave Saint Saturn guy.
Wow.
Actually, Caleb, if I recall correctly, our first interaction online, you kind of picked a fight with me.
Uh-oh.
There was a CCM tournament. Was that you?
Possible.
And he's ready to.
It was like Five Iron Frenzy and Rich Mullins, and I put this whole post about why Rich Mullins should win. Was that you who was defensive
it wasn't me.
about Five Iron? Oh, it wasn't.
Nope.
Okay,
by
never
that
mind.
point in that tournament, so sidebar, by that point in that tournament, I had quit commenting on anything because I had gotten so fed up with other people bashing Five Iron. And like the comment that sent me over to like, I'm not even voting for my favorite band anymore because I'm kind of tired of this, was somebody who was like, somebody needs to tell these Five Iron fans that they're ruining the fun for everyone else. And I wanted to be like, dude, jump off a bridge. Like, I'm done. Yeah. He's like, they beat the Newsboys. And I'm like, oh yes, the sacred Newsboys that are I was just like, give me a break. Like I shouldn't be allowed. So by that point in the tournament, by the time they went up against Rich Mullins, I was thrilled that people were excited about it. And I was just happy to let whatever happen. So I doubt I was fighting. It's,
I'm going to have to look that up. I was pretty sure it was you.
Oh, man.
And it might have been a couple rounds earlier.
That might have been true. Because at one point I was like,
anyway,
trying to go
all
back
that to say, someone on there took it personally that I liked Rich Mullins more than Five Iron Frenzy. But I also like Brave Saint Saturn more than Five Iron Frenzy. And I like this album. I would say it's my second favorite Brave Saint Saturn album.
Wow.
The Light of Things Hope For is kind of a not quite masterpiece, but Brave Saint Saturn level of masterpiece. But I really like it. And so part of the magic to me is Reese's singing on this at this sweet spot where it's kind of unpolished, a little bit dorky, if you can say that. But it really conveys the kind of melancholy themes he's putting in here and the sadness. It almost reminds me, him and Dennis, who sings on one song together, almost reminds me of Bare Naked Ladies, which are big here in Canada. But they're kind of corny and doing this folk thing and sometimes rap rock thing, whatever you call it. But it has that same kind of feel to me where it conveys an emotion very well. Now, he also conveys emotion very well when he's singing his heart out, which he starts to do, on the next album and later Five Iron Frenzy. But there's some magic in here that has not been captured in anything else Reese has done that I know of.
Yeah.
I don't know every project, but I'd say I really like it. for his vocal delivery and his lyricism
Yeah.
on here.
So I'm in the clear. Our first interaction on Twitter is in 2024. I think I'm in the clear so I don't think it was me. I think I've avoided that as long as Twitter search is not throwing us off. And you said like you think the Light of Things Hoped For is a Brave Saint Saturn masterpiece, but maybe not. It is a masterpiece. It is. You can throw that caveat off. It is an absolute masterpiece. Like
It's so good.
oh my gosh,
It's great. Yeah.
yeah.
I love
There's
it.
no there's no disclaimer, no anything. Just you can go straight. It's a masterpiece, and you have 1,000% my support because it is. It's so good, and this does lay the groundwork for that. You need this album to get there, in my opinion, just because I think Reese did have to figure some of these things out. But like, yeah, I get that disclaimer out of here. It's not just a Brave Saint Saturn masterpiece. It is a masterpiece.
It's cool. It was there's just nothing like Brave Saint Saturn. And there's I mean who does this kind of folky acoustic pop rock, space rock with record scratching? It's not really like cool. It's not like Portishead trip hop thing. It's not new metal, not that kind of record scratching. But it's nerdy and sciencey and spacey. So I love it. I love when Reese is singing about sad robots in space and singing breakup songs and singing about hanging out with homeless people. And, you know, it's I love this.
Yeah. It's another side of Reese, and that is what probably makes it stand out the most to me, and why I do love the Brave Saint Saturn albums is you get this other side of him. I think he had been going through some dark stuff, you know, and it allowed him to. The reality is, Five Iron didn't really, in my opinion, Five Iron didn't really figure out how to do the dark stuff until this last album, where like Reese and that album is not funny. There's no jokes on it because I think just Reese, from what I've heard, wasn't really in the spot for that. He just felt like he couldn't put out funny songs. Just stuff going on in his personal life and some stuff you just got, you know, his kind of views on kind of what was happening in our country and just kind of, I think, some of that struggle. So this was a way for him to get some of that darker stuff out. So I love that you do get a different side of Reese on here. It's not Five Iron Reese. It is, and I think it impacts his vocals. Like, I think he's trying to figure out how to nail down some of the vocal delivery here because it's not punk rock. And so there's some moments where you can tell, like, I think this, I could be way off. I think you're right. Like, he is trying to figure out how do I do this? How do I slow this down? And I think it gets you, in some ways, you get him at his most raw and unfiltered as a songwriter. Maybe not. I think what we're getting out of Five Iron Reese now is his most raw and unfiltered, but you get some of that like early, like him trying to it's him really coming through with less of a veil and more of just here's what I am and here's what I'm doing and we're going to take a shot at it.
I love the instrumentation on this album, and they are experimenting. That's where it's kind of haphazard in a way, but you have these I was a percussionist in band in school, so I hear the percussion section going on in here, and I love it. There's glockenspiels, bells, there's vibraphone. Let's see what else. I wrote a list. Yeah, jingle bells. I mean, doing the opening intro, it's like jingle bells with some kind of synthy, spacey sequencer. And they do, the record scratching. It's a really fun mix. Obviously, they're experimenting. They haven't figured it out. But when they did figure some of it out, they're taking all the ingredients from this album. You know, acoustic guitar largely driven, and with some electric too. With the drums you can hear on this first album, on the several songs, they're just very. I think it's compressed, but so it sounds hip hop like. And it's a cool sound to have on some really kind of nerdy, folky music in a way.
Right.
It's a cool combination.
Yeah.
So I like the musicality, the instruments, all the things they're trying to do, and I love the background vocals too. They almost sound like a gospel choir on a couple songs. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Paul. Like my listen today really made the drums stick out to me. Maybe it was the headphones I was using or what, but yeah, the drums kind of compressed, kind of um, hollow, but they kind of blast through like really strong. Obviously, Andy and I forget the other guy. You said someone else played drums on here, but yeah, they sound great. And then yeah, the synthesizers, the acoustic guitar. There's yeah, some keyboard stuff that's really pretty. Um, yeah, some great work on here.
Yeah.
The choruses really take the songs to the next level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When Reese has said he loves the bloops and beeps, and yeah, I think he's trying to push into that, a little bit, and he's trying to kind of find that. And you can obviously they would go on to cover an ELO, an Electric Light Orchestra song on Anti Meridian. I think this is a bit of that inspiration coming through because I know they're a favorite of Reese's as well, and so you get a little bit of that. It doesn't manifest itself, I think, full on until a little bit later. But you can see, I feel like the inspiration is there when you get some of those strings and you get some of those, some of the keys that come in there and some of the bleeps and bloops and that sort of thing. So I think that's the other thing that's really interesting about this is he gets to maybe play or kind of try and go for some of his other real influences that he's not going to get to do on Five Iron.
Yeah, he did say that in an interview that he had ELO in mind when doing the first Brave Saint Saturn.
Yeah.
So you can hear it, like strings, not just soft strings, but there's like some string plucks and stuff, or
Yeah.
what do you call it? When they kind of it's plucking.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Well, you said there's an ELO cover on Anti Meridian, but there's an ELO cover on this album if we want to talk about the prologue.
Oh, sure.
No, I mean kind of. If you that's not really a song, but
Yeah.
And Five Iron Frenzy has the ELO cover. I mean,
Yep.
Sweet Talking Woman.
Yep.
yep, he really likes them. And doesn't he shout in one of the songs, ELO, I have all your albums.
That's after
Yes.
Sweet Talking Woman. Yeah. He
Yeah, that's
shouts.
right. Yeah.
Which forever I could not. I was in high school when that came out, and I was like, "What is he talking about?" And that's pre-internet where you couldn't just look everything up. So I was like, ELO. I had no idea what it meant, and I had to go ask my dad. Dad? Do you know what ELO is? And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's this band."
As I looked into the sky, more than pyrotechnics meets the eye. And the fireworks fly, and the fireworks fall. For the eye has seen the best of all. And it's true, after every charge is through, I can still hear the thunder call.
Why is this album something that either still holds up for you or is important to you still to this day?
I'd say the big thing for me is the sound. I've already mentioned that, but this this magic coming together of Reese kind of under singing. He's not singing so huge, and it conveys an emotion. And I think Rob, you said it, just huge choruses, really good choruses. It's kind of catchy pop rock. So I really like the sound, and of course, some of the lyrical themes are cool. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk more about Under Bridges, but him talking about seeing Jesus and someone dying of AIDS and stuff like that. For a Christian teenager, that was great to hear when I first heard it. You had some people singing about that, but not a lot. So I feel like it's important in that way too.
Not a lot in 2000, I think. I think it was a topic that was not dived into by too many CCM artists. I agree. Rob, how about for you?
Yeah, where I land on this, I think it holds up because of the lyrical thematic metaphors, right? Which obviously continue with the rest of the trilogy very, very well, but with this starting point of space exploration as a metaphor for loneliness, right? The idea of loneliness is just so human. It's so relatable, especially uh, for Reese and for people of faith who often just look around the world and feel like they're the only ones that uh, are having these crises of um, seeing the darkness in the world and feeling like hope is draining away. Um, so the metaphor of loneliness is just timeless,
Mm.
and to back that. And I know there's not a ton of like the space and Apollo and USS Gloria stuff as much as on the second and third album, but the groundwork is there. There's enough little lyrical your voiceover inserts and
Yeah.
obviously the cover art and things like that to tie it all together. But it's there, and whether it's the loss of his grandmother on one of the songs, or the unhoused or neglected on one of the songs, or you know, um, relationships, fiancés, breakups. It's all there, and those themes aren't going anywhere anytime soon. So it holds
Yeah.
up.
I think this album's important because it pushes Reese to another level of songwriting that like he wasn't the sole songwriter ever in Five Iron. Like he was always the lyrics guy, and I think this was a good stretch for him. And I think it made him maybe even a better lyricist because
Mm.
he had to think about songs in a little different way. And so like for me, this really becomes like a pivotal step in Reese, and I think it helps Five Iron in some ways. Like it helps him get some of these like I don't have any problem with Five Iron being dark, but there's also something like I like that he got to get some of these things out, and he got to kind of go into these darker themes. Like he got to explore loneliness, and he didn't have to try and cram it into Five Iron if they weren't ready for that as a group or they couldn't feel like they could fit it in. And so like for me, is he's the most important lyricist in music for me. I mean, by a long stretch. So like to get more of it and to get a little more variety and a little more outlet for him is something that still holds up. And like this album makes me cry, and that's not saying much. I'm despite my not liking emo music, I totally cry to other music all the time, and this is an album that can still make me cry. So absolutely, I think that is why this ends up being so important for me when it comes to just the album in particular. The other thing for me that there's two anecdotes around Gloria, the song that they close the album with. One is in college for an outreach. We did like a one act, one man play where I did the whole thing. I wrote the whole thing out, and then we had this big event on campus where people could come and do it. And we used the song Gloria in that. My friend, he was on stage and he just played it acoustically and sang it during like a little thing. So we used that song in an outreach that we did, and
Hmm.
it was fun. I wouldn't consider myself a thespian by any means, but it was fun to like with a couple people, like we wrote out this whole script and then I did this whole performance, and we had a little like, you should come check out Campus Crusade and Jesus is cool. Trust us. Here's this song. So that's one thing we did. And then I will say it. I mean, I do have a child named Gloria. So one of my daughters is named Gloria. Not after this. Mom picked this name, but I wasn't opposed when she picked it. I was like, yeah, we should go with that.
No.
So I don't have like real Five Iron or related children names. We don't really, but this one, she's the only child that isn't a Bible book of the Bible as a name, and so she's Gloria. So I do have a child named Gloria as well. So
It's fun.
that's why
Nice.
this album, and this is my Gloria song. When I think of a song called Gloria, I do think of that song above all of them, even the Christmas ones. So
And it uses some of the Christmas lines, right?
yep, it does.
Gloria.
Yeah. So
Can I say one thing on Gloria?
yeah,
I know that's out of order.
that's fine. We'll let chaos reign.
So that kind of slow on Gloria, in the last half of the song, there's that eighth note electric guitar kind of build thing, which is almost exactly like Coldplay's Yellow, which, looking at the time, I think this was probably recorded slightly first. Now, because that came out the same year,
Yeah, it
it
did.
might have been on the charts like as a single by the time this album came out, but it's close to the same. So it's very much of the time doing that kind of eighth note, loud but kind of slow, Coldplay Yellow thing. But I think Christian music had been doing that a lot before then. When I first heard Yellow, I thought it was Delirious, or someone was ripping off Delirious. So it's not like they're the only people doing that, but it was very much Gloria it has that Yellow feel to me.
So really funny because the show that's coming out before this show is on Coldplay on X and Y. So that's pretty funny that Coldplay gets a reference two weekends in a row, or 2 weeks in a row. And what's funny is it came up in that show is one of the guests was like, yeah, I thought they were a Christian band because of some lyrics that they had in there. So maybe, and there is a reference to like they were raised in church settings. So maybe they were ripping off some Christian sound when they put out Yellow. That's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, the influence went the other way too. I mean, a lot of Christian
for
worship
sure.
sounds like Coldplay.
That is, I heard that this week on Twitter. Somebody made that exact comment. I was like, oh, I never thought about it that way.
With hands raised from the ghetto, say praise his name. Broken crippled in the darker night. Raise your voices to Jesus Christ. On the bridges with hands raised from the ghetto, say praise his name. Broken crippled in the darker night. Raise your voices to Jesus Christ. Hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
So what are your, and I know it's easy to talk about all of them on this one. I'm going to have a hard time not saying something about all of them, but what are some of your favorite tracks from this album?
I guess we'll just start at the top. Space Robot 5 is a great kickoff. I mean, you have the prologue, which is just the ELO time prologue,
Yeah.
just re-recorded, by someone. But as far as original songs, Space Robot 5, just it has that cool kind of off-kilter drumming to
Yeah.
kick it off, and then that slide guitar strumming kind of starts. Um, yeah, it just kind of rocks. Chorus is super catchy. Um, it has in the chorus, like, I don't know what you call it. Paul, maybe you can help out. But like kind of like that West Coast rap synthesizer sound, like the
Oh, yeah.
wee wee in the background. So I think that's really fun. And harmonies, I mean, this will come up a lot as we go through the song. Harmonies are excellent on this album. The vocal harmonies, background harmonies, the way the voices play against each other. Sometimes it's Reese with himself, sometimes it's someone else harmonizing. And then as far as content, I mean, it just puts you right in the zone of what the album's going to be about, right?
Yep.
So very alone, so far from home. And then at the end, just the fragileness of his voice as the instruments drop out, right? He has no home. He is alone. And that just like, oh, it's giving me chills right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, that song just gives you like, this is where we're at. This is not a 5 iron album. This is its own thing. And we're going to dig into it together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And robots never cry.
Yeah, it's a great line.
I mean, kind of a Boys Don't Cry, The Cure kind of a thing, but different. It's a robot.
I think it not only sets the tone for this album, it feels like it sets the tone for the trilogy. Even if he didn't have that all fleshed out and nailed down, like so much of what comes up in that song is referenced again and again and again. And even the musical style, like you get the strings, you get, some of the unique programming elements that again, just he would go back to throughout the entire trilogy. So I think it's pretty amazing, even though he maybe didn't have that all figured out exactly, like to kind of set the tone for this. I think you nailed it. It's not a 5-iron record, or it's not a 5-iron album. But it really, like, it's something that feels like there's a through line through the whole thing, just from this one song, even if he may have not known every last detail.
Yeah, it's like a thesis statement, right?
Yeah.
You've referenced the trilogy. Should we say something on that so people know what we're talking about?
Yeah, sure. If you want to, let's hear your crack at it. I'd love to hear it.
Sure. So there's a trilogy of Brave Saint Saturn albums, and the basic plot is on the first one, they go to space. However, on the first one, there's really not a lot of narrative around that.
Yeah.
But you get a narrative in the second album, The Light of Things Hoped For, where you have a manned spacecraft, the USS Gloria, going to Saturn's moon, Titan, I believe, which I'm sure NASA would do, send some Christian rockers into space. And the Apollo 13 style tragedy ensues. They almost get stuck in space on the far side of Saturn's moon.
Yep.
And to not give away the best song, eventually they come out of orbit and see the sun, and they come back home. But then the third album is how they get back home, and there's another tragedy. So re-entry is very difficult. So all of this is, of course, metaphorical. Their songs deal with lots of things, relationships and loneliness, of course. I mean, yeah, all kinds of things, like people who have died on several of the albums. There's songs about dedicated to them.
Yep.
But yeah, if you hear the trilogy, if you hear us talking about a trilogy, there's a general narrative that takes shape later of this space crew.
Yeah.
On the USS Gloria.
The USS Gloria. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And anti-meridian is like the element they discovered in the chaos of it, or there's like an element that they discover that they were, so it's got a little like comic book nature in it or whatever. I think that's kind of something that they bring up on that third album. So there's like a true science fiction nature to it in some ways. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to go more into Anti-Meridian's not that album we're talking about, but I think a great point of that album also is that most of the album is while they're back home, right? And so it's them reacting to acclimating back to humanity and life and the fallout. It's like, it reminds me of like, I don't know if it's like The Hurt Locker or another war movie where it's like you see the scenes after they get back from war and they're dealing with PTSD. And I think one of the soldiers is standing in like the grocery store cereal aisle and just seeing like this wide array of cereal and he doesn't know what to do. And he's just like overwhelmed with like the options when he's just so used to being in battle. And anyway, there's some of those elements and themes in it too of like, how do we continue on after we've been through this experience?
Yeah. And the best song you're referring to is the outro on the light of Things Hoped For. That's the best song, right?
It's Daylight.
Oh, Daylight. Yeah.
Oh, Daylight.
Yeah.
It's a big crescendo. I could talk about big crescendo songs all day, but that's a different album.
I think it's funny because you said it. You just said it like the highlight, like the big song, and I was like, yeah, it's Daylight, and we all knew. Like there was no question in my mind. Like, oh yeah, I knew exactly which song you were talking about, which is pretty funny to have it like have that status. I think it has that status amongst the trilogy of Brave Saint Saturn albums that like if you bring it up, people are like, oh yeah, Daylight's a great song. Like it's kind of the first response you get from a lot of people.
And you don't really expect a song with like clips of Mission Control.
Yeah.
Do you read me to make you cry? But that's Brave Saint Saturn. They do that.
Yeah. I wouldn't cover that album for another 3 years, so I'm gonna throw out the one anecdote I have about. Well, I have a number of anecdotes about Daylight, but I was waiting to get my oil change in my car back after that album had come out, and I was reading The Lord of the Rings, and I was right at the scene where Rohan rides down onto the fields of Pelin, whatever, where they like ride into Gondor. I'm like reading that scene while Daylight is on, while waiting for my oil change in my car. And I'm just sitting there bawling in my car between the song and the book. And like, I'm just bawling. And the guy changing my oil was probably like, What's wrong with this guy? He's sitting in his car crying. I don't like this guy at all.
All right, one I really like is 229.
Okay.
It's later in the album, and I feel like this is where they get their spaciest sound.
Yes. Yeah.
It's kind of big. It has that record scratching, almost trip hop sound like I was talking about, and it's kind of dark lyrically. Where he sings about February 29th, leap day.
Yeah.
In a world of starving children, pain never seems to cease. So it's a big, kind of heartfelt, dark, anthemic song, and I love it's the Brave Saint Saturn genre of space rock that emerges in that song.
Yeah.
It's not a Major Tom, ground control to Major Tom. It's not Pink Floyd. It's this other kind of spacey music we get with Brave Saint Saturn.
Yep. Yeah, it's a song written about the death of his grandmother, who I believe she died on February 29th.
February
so
29th.
that's the day that she had passed. And yeah, it's got a lot of these a lot of these things that become, again, kind of central focuses. It talks about hope. I think it's one of the first references to hope, and hope becomes, obviously the title of the second album is The Light of Things Hoped For, so that becomes a thing. It's got a Dylan Thomas poem reference in it. It samples the space shuttle Challenger disaster and some of the communications going on there. So it's got a number of things going on, but it also has things that are staples in a lot of way that kind of are in a lot of the music that he produces. So yeah, I agree. It's a great song.
Yeah, I love that song too, for sure. And I have a lot of notes on it. I'm just, I love it. I will say it's jarring, musically, thematically. I don't know. You almost expect a song about the death of a grandparent, which obviously in the lyrics, he's very close to and loves very much and trusts that she is, in heaven with Jesus. But musically, it's very unsettling. With the record scratches, what I call the doom bells, some very
Yeah.
heavy bell sounds in the beginning. There's some strings in there, and yeah, it's an interesting almost juxtaposition. It does work, but it almost shouldn't. It's not a pretty song. Missing is Grammy. I mean, it is, but musically maybe not so much. But yeah, that chorus is heavy. I will hope for things unseen now, and one day my heart will be at peace. So it's beautiful, but musically it's dark. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that Dylan Thomas poem, Rage, Rage Against the Dying of the Light, I think.
Rage.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously that theme continues on a lot through the next album, through Daylight, and some of those themes about being outside of being able to see the sun and things like that. So it's an interesting song.
So those doom bells, technically speaking, are chimes.
Gotcha.
The big kind of chimes,
The big ones.
You hear in the Smashing Pumpkins song.
The one that goes dun dun dun.
Yeah. That one. Anyway, chimes.
Nice.
I used to play those in band. It's my favorite.
Nice. This is why I like having musical people on here, because I couldn't tell you.
I can't say it's a favorite song, but I think we have to talk about Shadow of Death.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
Let's kick this off. I mean, there's certain songs we have to talk about. We know we're going to talk about Under Bridges. We know we're going to talk about Gloria some more. We have to talk about Shadow of Death because of what it is. So we start off with this sample from the Jerky Boys, which is fantastic. And then, in the middle to the end, we get Frank Tate rapping, and good grief, it's like DC Talk, but worse, maybe.
So much worse.
No, I'm trying to be respectful, but no, it's an interesting song. It does stick out like a sore thumb. You would expect it maybe more on a 5-iron album, but only because we know where the trilogy goes and how heavy and metaphorically dense and story thematically the trilogy goes. So here again, I think they're just kind of throwing things at the wall and just having fun with it and just putting an album together. And that's cool. And it's fun for what it is. I'm not trashing the song, so I hope it doesn't come across that way. But It is the biggest curveball by far on this album.
Yeah.
So for people who haven't heard the album, who are listening to us for whatever reason, it's a kind of hip hop parody. So
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure if the joke is on hip hop or the joke is on Reese because he's not a cool rapper. I think it's a little bit of both. But I mean, it's not the only like white guy doing hip hop satire at all. I mean,
Yeah.
I was in a like I had a joke band and we did one of those, you know. So I've been there when I was a teenager. But I don't think he can really do that. Or it depends if is he making fun of just rap music? I think he's poking fun a little bit at some of the mannerisms, but also you get the sense with Reese that everything he does, he's also making fun of himself. Because he's very self-deprecating, and he would do a kind of sketch on stage. It's on their live Five Iron Frenzy album, where he's like talking about how uncool he is, and then he raps. I don't quite remember the words. It's been a while.
He talks about the white chocolate side project.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think this song is him still feeling the pressure to be funny. And so he's like, "Oh, I need to do this." And then like I think after the fact, I could be wrong, and if Reese, you listen to this and I'm wrong, I apologize, and I'll just say that up front. But I would guess that like in hindsight, probably it wasn't long after this came out that he was like, "Oh, I didn't need to do that. Like I didn't need to be funny. Like it was okay. I could have just done a straight 13, 12, 10 songs on just where I didn't have to have that moment on there." And I don't know if that's what it feels like to me, is there was kind of this like pressure to do it. And I know he lived with a guy who went on to have like a couple rap albums. So I think he said Run DMC was, I know he's a fan of Run DMC. I have a performance from the Purple Door where for his vocal warm up, he does this whole Run DMC like intro, like he does a whole Run DMC song by himself.
Awesome.
So like, I know he's got an affection for some hip hop. So I don't know if it's him just making fun of, it might be like him making fun of almost like the white people adoption of hip hop. Like that might be part of the joke. I don't know what exactly the joke was meant to be. I know when this song came out, I laughed. I was all in on it, and I'd rap along with the Frankie T part every time because I was all in on everything that he was doing. But yeah, it's definitely a song that sticks out, and I always have wondered that if in hindsight he's like, oh yeah, I felt the need to have that funniness, and I just don't know if I could let it go totally serious for 13 songs and then realize, oh, I can't do that, and that's okay. It's okay for me to just go serious for a whole album, and nobody's gonna fret about it.
Yeah. I know I keep referencing this interview, but there's just not a lot of Brave Saint Saturn information out there. So this is from the Jesus Freak Hideout interview from 2001. And they were asking about the inspiration for Shadow of Death, and he said, I was making up songs with Micah, and Micah listens to a lot of hip hop and stuff. We thought it'd be funny to do a song like that with all these hip hop words in it. So we did, and then 2 months later, this band called Dynamite Hack did the same thing. They did the cover of Boys in the Hood. I don't know if you guys remember the Dynamite Hack cover of Boys in the Hood. Anyway, he said, I don't know, it's good, it's better than ours, it's better than us.
Can we talk about though how the chorus is kind of cool with the gospel-y background vocals?
Oh, definitely.
I mean, the words are kind of, it's just I'm the DJ, he's the rapper. They switch it up. Yeah, it's really it's the same kind of pop rock sound in a way, except the verses are more straight up hip hop, I guess. Not quite straight up.
Close though.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up Fireworks because I kind of made mention to it earlier. This is Dennis's song, and I think this is, I will say it, like I'd take more music from Reese. Absolutely. I would also take more music from Dennis. He put out the one solo album, and I wish he would have done more. I really think he's okay with like where his role is in Five Iron and where it was. I mean, I think if you're unfamiliar with Five Iron's history, like he became the primary songwriter for a couple albums where he was really took over after Scott left the band. And I think it's an absolutely excellent song. It's up there. It's in my top 5 for Dennis songs. And I know he doesn't have a ton of songs out there, but like it's hard because he also has the song about the off of the Light of Things Hoped For is an absolutely killer song. And so like when he nails those songs, like it's just incredible. So I really love the guitar work on that song. And just, I think it's a great addition. It's a really nice fit in the album too, kind of right in the middle. It's a good transition into Under Bridges. So I'm all for that Fireworks song. And I do remember, I know we made the reference to like when this came out and then he had announced that solo record. One of my friends was literally like almost spastic. He's like, we're going to get a whole album of Fireworks. And I was like, I don't know if we will, but I hope we do, I guess. But he was like when it got announced, he was like just so excited. I remember being like, just settle down, dude. Like, we'll see what we get. Just, it's okay. Settle down. But yes, so I think that's a favorite from the album for me, for sure.
It's a good one. It's got really like 90s rock vibes.
Yeah.
And I just want to add that the pre-chorus on that song rips. Like the kind of like syncopated section where like the guitars are just kind of chunking out and then just how it launches into and the fireworks. It's so good. It's so good.
And the vibes on there, vibraphone. Not the vibes. I mean, the vibes of the song are cool, but the instrument is well placed.
Yeah.
The do-do-do-do-do-do over the kind of minor chord guitar riffing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, because he's gone on to have a career in music too. So like the idea of like him being able to assemble songs, like, he's clearly got a knack for that, putting a song together musically. Because again, that became his primary role in Five Iron for a little bit. So
I like Independence Day. It's a cool pop rock song. It's a breakup song. I love Independence Day, 2nd of May. I lost my best friend and my fiance.
Yep.
But it's got that's the biggest, I think, kind of pop chorus or pop rock chorus on this album. Like in a more upbeat way. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, he goes into those breakup songs a number of times on the trilogy, and
yes,
this is kind of that first one. And yeah, I agree. I think it's again not something although you got Ugly Day in Five Iron, but like you didn't get a whole lot of those relationship songs in Five Iron Records. So for him to have this space to kind of get those out, I think was good.
Yeah, the backing, the oohs and the ahs in the background, like are really nicely layered in there. They're easy to miss or just like not think about, but like again, there's a lot of intentionality on this album, even though we kind of talk about how it's kind of scattered and diverse, but like the way things are placed and layered, there's a lot of thoughtfulness there, especially in this track. It's kind of more piano or keyboard driven, and yeah, it's a good song, really good song.
Yeah, let's talk about Rocketown. It's a Michael W. Smith cover, which I think some people miss. I remember, in fact, I think it was a friend of mine it was 10 years later. And they were like, did you know Rocketown's a cover of Michael W. Smith? And I think at the time I was like, I didn't realize this. Like I knew by then, but I did not realize right when this came out. It was a couple years later that I realized it was. So what are you guys' thoughts on that cover?
I mean, the guitar tone and the, I don't know, some kind of keys or synth that's kind of soulful. It's cool.
Yeah,
it's kind of like I don't know. It's a fun jam how they do it. I think it works.
I think it's kind of corny. I don't like that song.
Yeah,
if I can be honest, I don't care for the Michael W. Smith version. I think it's a little corny. It's fine. It's fun. The guitar, the wah pedal is strongly used, and it's fine. It's got Rocket in the title, so it all ties in with Brave Saint Saturn. But I could take it or leave it if I'm being honest.
But if you have to take a cover of a Michael W. Smith song, because I can only think of two. It's either Friends by Goaty Hook or this one by Brave Saint Saturn. Which one are you taking?
I'll take this one.
You take this one?
I'll take this one.
They're both pretty corny. I'm not going to lie. Sorry, Michael W. Smith, but Friends is a fairly corny song. The fact that it became a worship song in some weird ways in 90s youth group culture it's a whole other problem we have. We'll cover that on the youth group podcast.
I just should say that I never would have expected to kind of like a Michael W. Smith cover. So the fact that they pulled that off for me, good job, Brave Saint Saturn.
I know Reese is a big Amy Grant fan. It'd be interesting to know if he has any strong affection for Michael W. Smith, or if this was just like, oh, that's a good reference, the whole Rocket reference. So let's just throw back to it. It'd be interesting to know if he actually has a strong affection for those old 80s Michael W. Smith albums, which I can listen to and enjoy for what they are. They, that 80s CCM pop thing that was happening. So, all right, let's talk about the big one. Well, I'm doubting my order. Let's talk about Gloria. I've told a couple of quick stories about it already. I absolutely love it. I love it as a closer. What are you guys' thoughts on that? And then we'll go cover the big one to round out the conversation. What are you guys' thoughts on Gloria?
We're going from my least favorite song, Rocket Town, to my favorite song on the album. So this is yeah. I think. Wait, we are talking about Glory, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So we're talking about Shadow of Death again.
No. We've circled back to that.
No, I think Gloria it's my favorite song on the album. I think it maybe the best song on the album. Obviously Reese across many albums is great at album closers. Yeah, it's very simple guitar picking. But once it gets to that chorus, well, let me go back. I mean, the verses, right? The way he sings, Jesus Christ, are you really there? It's just,
Yeah.
Man, how many times have I been in that place where I'm just talking and asking this person or this God, right? Like, are you really there? But I'm talking to him. So it's like this kind of juxtaposition, right? And I need you now, not words or a feeling. It's beautiful. It's like, when there's nothing else, there's Christ. Always there, always loving, always holding you. And he's there to fix you. So the song just swells so beautifully in and out. And I like the way it ends with the ticking kind of pocket watch sound.
Yeah.
It's a great way to close their album.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a little like metronome maybe or something.
Perhaps, yeah.
Like a tick track. That's how it sounds. Just very simple, high. I'm always talking about the percussion in every song. Yeah, killer percussion on that song. What can I say?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, it's a good closer. It's not my favorite on the album. I don't really have anything to add to what you said, Rob. You said it.
I think for me, it highlights what Reese is able to do here better than he can do on 5-Iron. This song maybe highlights it even better than the breakup songs, because you could have potentially worked those into a ska punk band. Like, ska punk bands have covered breakup songs for sure, but like this sort of way, the way he gets to do this, like the I've fallen down, like I need you, like there is this desperation that you can work into a ska punk album for sure, but like he really does get to really dive into that loneliness and that despair that is coming through here. And I think, yes, I also feel like this strong connection to that idea of like, yeah, there's times where, are you really there? I have said that in not the same exact words, but like I feel like I've said that in my struggles with faith and my struggles with anxiety and all of these different things. And so like to see that come through on a CCM album and to have it feel very genuine, have it feel very raw, and not have this like yes, it does end on a hopeful tune, like your love, your mercy, your light unending, your hope, your peace, your strength, my heart is mending. It does end on a hopeful tune, but it doesn't feel like it just like, well, we wrap that up in a nice little bow and we'll ship that out and that'll be on the next Jeremy Camp album. Like it doesn't have that like that hopeful, like it has it, but it doesn't in the same way. It still feels a little raw. And I really like that. All right. Well, let's talk about Under Bridges and then we'll move on. We've talked about almost all the songs, so I apologize. This has gone really long. But Under Bridges, I think, was the standout song when the album was released. So we'll end kind of with our conversation about that. What are you guys' thoughts on Under Bridges?
Yeah, a great song. It's got a build too, a crescendo, um,
Yep.
and thematically, it really is that that New Testament kind of Matthew 25, whatever you've done to the least of these, uh, you've done to me song. So when he's meeting people who are sick and hungry, that I remember. I think the standout line is like Jesus Christ dying of AIDS can see right through you.
Yeah.
So really putting the face of Christ as the person right in front of you who's suffering. Um, that's a song.
Mhm. Yeah, it's clear that Reese obviously has a heart for the unhoused and neglected and the uncared for in our society, the overlooked. Um, like we referenced Jesus Christ dying of AIDS. I mean, that is right the notion of Imago Dei, right? The image of Christ in every
Yeah.
person. Um, yeah, and then at the end of the song, that kind of little Apollo 8 thing,
Yep.
voiceover, I guess, or whatever, and how it launches. Is it a key change? I don't know if it's like technically a key change or what, but just the way it goes into the last kind of like anthem section. Um, yeah, and it just reminds me, I don't know if Scum of the Earth Church was already set up by this point or not. But obviously like the church that he and some of the members of Five Iron helped establish in Denver, the inner city church, like a church for people that probably wouldn't otherwise go to church, reaching out to people in the city. Um, so it just reminds me of that, putting the lyrics, they're not just lyrics, they're living them out, in different
Yeah.
ways. It's really cool. And then just ending on the hallelujah is just really powerful, really beautiful.
And I think props to Frank Tate, who let somebody put out on his Christian music label with he let somebody put out a song that says, "All have hated, crucified, and walked away, the savior of the prostitutes, the drunkards, rapists, and the gays." In 2000, that is a line. Like, that is, I think, that in where the Christian culture was at the time, like, that is a line that is probably it. I'm sure some people would be upset about it today, but back then, I'm sure that really was a line that there were. I would guess that there were parents, if they read the liner notes, were like, "What? What's being talked about here?" And like, it
Yeah.
was probably something that pissed off some parents. But I think that is, again, maybe he can't put that on a Five Iron record, but this gives him that space to push in and to start a very important conversation, especially for the year 2000. Like, what does this look like? Like, if we're really going to believe that, I think to talk through what it really means that Christ has the power to save everyone, no matter what you think about a person's lifestyle or who they are or any of those things. Like, that is a powerful comment in 2000 that I just don't think was coming out on, again, your standard CCM album. So I think that's the other thing that is really powerful about this song is it's very cutting, it's very raw, it's pushing into topics that I was in college at the time, those were good conversations to be had, and to get them from this like ska punk band offshoot, like, that's the power of Reese's lyrics, I think, in so many ways.
Mhm.
They did close their set with that song as well. Just if you're, that's the other thing I do distinctly remember from the show is that was and again, they only had this album out at the time, but they did close the set with Under Bridges. So
The original lyrics were something about the guy having breath smelling like Jack and Coke.
oh really?
And apparently Reese's mom heard it and was offended, and she said Jesus would not get drunk on Jack and Coke and pee his pants. So he said, I changed the words, said, Mom, now think about this. She listened to it, liked the song, and we put it on the record.
That's funny.
He ran it by his mom.
He
Good
did
for
for
him.
years on the podcast, and she passed away recently. in the last couple of years, but he would always joke when he was doing his podcast with Joe that every time he would curse, he'd be like, "Sorry, Mom," because he know that she was still listening, and she was like, she didn't like when he was cursing on his podcast. So still, even 20 years later, we're still running stuff by his mom, which is probably a good sign. We should to run stuff by your parents. So.
Hang around by the street lights in the heart of the nightlife. What was his mission? Where was he going? Why was his heart light always glowing? All I was missing, he stood there holding. What was his secret? Could I know it?
All right, we've gone long. We're at like an hour and a half, so we'll try and give one last pitch for this. So again, somebody, it is possible somebody has never checked this album. I think most people who are listening to this have checked this album out, but if somebody hasn't, like, what is your sales pitch for this? Like, hey, 25 years later, go back and check this record out.
I would definitely say start here, but don't end here.
Yeah,
it's a great start to a great band that just continued to build on the ideas that are here. So if you start digging into this album and even like what you hear, even if you don't love what you hear, if you like what you hear, like keep going. It's for me it's a foundation that is only built upon. It's a sandbox where Reese and some of the guys from Five Iron got to play and try out some new sounds, and some of them work really, really well. And they are explored all the more in the coming records, thematically as well in the lyrics, as well as musically. And it's a fun listen. It's a concise album. It's on the shorter side, I think. And What do you got to lose? What do you got to lose? Just go listen to it. Enjoy.
Can you find this? I just thought about that. Is this on streaming?
It's not on streaming.
Oh man, I didn't even think about that.
Nah, you got to go to YouTube.
Okay, so it's on YouTube. Thanks.
Someone ripped it. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
Buy someone's used CD when they're selling a pack of 50 on a music forum.
On a music forum that
that's the real way to get this album.
Wait, is LimeWire Kazaa still around?
Paul, how about for you? What would you tell somebody who hasn't checked this album out?
I would say you probably wouldn't expect pop rock, space rock, Christian side project of a ska band to be very interesting. But you know what it is?
Yeah.
It's surprisingly cool music. So give it a try.
Yeah. And I think for me, especially if you're a Five Iron fan, like, I think there is the possibility that especially people who relate to Five Iron, like if you only realize them after their reunion, there is a chance you've missed this, especially because it's not on streaming. I think there is that chance. And I think it's a nice little fixture in the legacy of Five Iron. And maybe I'm overselling them. They have a legacy for me for sure. And so, like, I think it's important to see this where it's at in 2000 and see where kind of Reese's went lyrically and kind of some of the things he did. And then I just think it's so unique. Like, you're not gonna run into another space trilogy, space rock trilogy. You're just not going to. And so, like, it's so unique. It's a unique way to explore some of these things that, like, I think are important things to talk about. Loneliness, despair, the loss of a loved one. Those are things that are good to explore and good to talk about. And this is a unique way of doing it. And there's plenty of albums that have done it in different ways, but this is, I think, a very approachable way to do it and to kind of think through some of those things. So I think that's the other thing. And it's a I want to say a fun way to look at those things, because that's not the way I would put it, but it's a unique way to look at those topics in a musical setting.
You could say it's even a nerdy way to look at to approach those topics, but I mean that in a good way, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I add that you've talked about listening to Brave Saint Saturn if you're a Five Iron fan. If you're not a Five Iron Frenzy fan, you might actually like this.
Yeah.
I don't still listen to Five Iron Frenzy. I did when I was younger, maybe one or two songs, but I do still listen to Brave Saint Saturn, and I'm not really stopping anytime soon. So I think it holds some weight.
Nice. We're gonna have a intervention later about how I can get you to really, really dive into the 5-iron. But
I had the shirt. I've been to shows. I know the band.
They're still, yeah. Well, that's a whole other thing. Man, it is an expensive Discogs buy. Holy cow!
How much we talking?
$3.
Oh, is it on? Okay, because I saw a website that had it for
No, I'm joking.
$43.
$3 used on a forum. I'm still telling the same
okay,
joke.
that's funny.
Yeah,
I
very
should've
funny.
got
I
that.
know.
$43 is one place I saw it. Discogs has sold it for as little as 12 cents and as high as $29.
It's just that kind of album.
Yeah.
It's cheap. It's expensive.
Let's see. Amazon, if you're going to buy it, $38 on Amazon. Not as expensive as the Black Eyed Siva on Amazon. That was over 100 last time I checked. So. That is our breakdown of So Far From Home by Brave Saint Saturn, again released June 20th, 2000, celebrating a 25-year anniversary. I feel like maybe earlier in the show I said 20-year anniversary. It's possible. So I said that earlier. I apologize for not being good at this job. That isn't a job. But celebrating a 25-year anniversary. I know both of you are online because that's where we obviously connected. So I want to try and give a chance for people to connect or find your stuff online. If you have anything you're selling, this is a great time to sell that product. But Paul, where can people find you online if you want to be found, I suppose?
Yeah, I'm on Blue Sky. That's really the only place I post. And it's really mostly about birds and lichens. And I also study church history, so especially recent evangelicalism. So if cross-reference jokes about warblers and Me Without You lyrics and lichen subspecies are your jam, hey, look me up. I'm at Paul R. Foth on there. I also have a newsletter that's called The Wandering Tattler, Wandering with an O. And I talk about a lot of these things. And I did once mention Brave Saint Saturn with the tagline in this issue, how NASA's manned Christian rock space mission to Saturn's moon Titan nearly ended in tragedy.
Oh, funny.
So
did anybody get the joke at all or no?
Well, I don't know if they did. They didn't mention it.
Okay.
It's mostly for my friends. I write about church history. I write about unpacking some of my past religious experiences. I'm still Christian, but I've unpacked others. Things along the way. I write about a lot of music because I listen to a lot of music.
Yeah.
And birds, lichens, dumb jokes. It's kind of everything. It's mostly for my friends, but hey, you could be my internet friend. So
Yeah, absolutely.
there you go.
And Rob, I know we've talked about it before. You run the Me Without You archive. That's the easiest place to find that is still Blue Sky, right?
Yeah, still Blue Sky. I don't post a ton as much as I used to anymore. Just kind of, untangling myself from social media little by little. But yeah, occasionally I'll throw a meme on there, try to engage in conversations. And it's been a while since I've posted some more live shows in the actual archive, but still enjoy doing that from time to time when I think of it. But yeah, there's 50 plus shows in the Me Without You archive, which is hosted on Google spreadsheets or whatever it's called, Google
Docs? Drive?
Drive, whatever the Excel version of Google is.
Okay.
Sheets. Sheets. There it is.
There
Yep,
it is.
Sheets. That's the word I could not remember. Yeah. So I'm out there. You can find me. Say hey.
Awesome. Yeah. Great resource if you want to look up live Me Without You shows and hear bird references, right? Because they do a lot of bird references in
They
Me
practice their practicing your gnat catcher and avocet calls.
That's right. That's a deep cut. There you go,
Yeah.
Paul.
Oh, I catch those. They're about birds.
What's the perfect band for you then? It's like
Every Rook and Jay.
Or
and the
if you're into,
Corvidae
like,
have been
anything.
raving about him too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Every Rook and Jane the Corvidae. Yeah. If you're, I mean, this is not a Me Without You podcast, but
that's fine.
I feel like they're into all kinds of details. If you like textiles and types of pottery and different kinds of farm animals or produce,
Or
Me
any
Without You's your band.
Abrahamic tradition.
Yes. Or Hindu or,
True.
other stuff too. Yeah. If you like all those things, Me Without You is your band. If you like space and sadness, Brave Saint Saturn is your band.
Space and sadness. That's a great tagline.
We got to end it right there. That's perfect.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining me on my Space and Sadness podcast. I really appreciate it, guys. That was awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Caleb.
Thank you.
Rain never seems to cease. I will hope for things unseen now. One day my heart will be at peace. Said I loved her and she knew it. Whispered softly through the sky tonight. She is warm and safe in heaven. In the loving arms of Jesus Christ.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Album Anniversary Podcast. I want to say thanks again to Paul and Rob for joining the show. It was great to talk to them about this album. It's a unique one. It's a different one. It's something that's a little less well known by some people and really special to other people. So it was great to have them on the show. I was super happy to talk with them about this album. Let us know what you thought. What do we get right? What do we get wrong? What are your favorites from this album? You can find me on all the social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm hanging out on all of them. I'm also on YouTube. You can find me there as well. Again, Caleb the Spy or the Album Anniversary Podcast. I think if you do the search, you should be able to find me on any of those places. Please subscribe if you're following me on any of those social media platforms or on YouTube. It does help out those subscriptions. It is a big deal. I'm also on Patreon. I have one of those. Again, that's the only way to find that one is to look for the Album Anniversary Podcast. Trying to throw some extra stuff. I swear I'm going to try and do some more stuff. Right now, it's totally free. So if if you're on Patreon for some other reason, for another show or another thing you support, you can always join mine totally for free. Again, and I think kind of going back to that idea that social media can be a little fickle. Not everybody's going to be on social media forever. So it's a place I can kind of call my own. So please check out the Patreon. I have put some exclusive stuff on there occasionally, and I want to continue to try and do more exclusive stuff on Patreon. Like I said, please subscribe, share the podcast, leave a rating or review. Those are helpful for podcasts. If you enjoy the show, you might also enjoy the other podcast I do with my friend Scott. It's called I Survived Youth Group in the 90s. It's not just a podcast where we reminisce about our youth and our youth group experience, but we're trying to interview 90s and 2000s youth group kids and just kind of see where they're at now, how that youth group experience has impacted their life. Again, whether you're at the church you were raised at or you've left the faith entirely, we just want to hear your story. No right or wrong answers. Just want to have a chance for people to share about their story and about their youth group experience. That's it for this week's show. Not that I do a weekly show, whenever the shows come out. But thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Not words or a feeling, but Jesus Christ. I've hit the ceiling. Your love, your mercy, your light unending. Your hope, your peace, your strength, my heart is bending. Your love, your mercy, your light unending. Your hope, your peace, your strength, my heart is bending.
Oh, I live in rural British Columbia.
Oh,
So in the
okay.
interior, I live in a place called 100 Mile House, which is
Okay.
not a house, it's a town. And actually, I don't even live there. I live outside of that.
101 Mile House. You're the last mile out.
I live in 108 Mile Ranch.
Oh, wow.
You can do the math of how far away that is. It's not a ranch, it's a residential area. But I am currently in southeast BC, right over, like, just north of the Idaho-Montana border. I'm in Cranbrook
Okay.
right now
Nice.
for work.
So it's a 108-mile ranch, but it's not a ranch. And you
It's
guys
not a
don't even
ranch.
do miles up there, do you?
Not anymore.
That's funny.
Awesome.
So we have 3 different time zones here. That's funny.
Yeah.
I'm in Mountain now.
Okay.
I live in Pacific. Today
Okay.
I can see the Rockies, so I'm in Mountain Time.
And then Rob, is in the East Coast. So yeah,
Yep. I'm in
we're all
Maryland,
over the
right
place.
outside DC. So I connected with Paul earlier today through a DM because he follows the Me Without You archive on Blue Sky.
Oh yeah, I do.
And so I was like,
funny.
wait, Paul, how have I heard that name? Like, oh, we've been trying to set up a podcast. We're talking tonight.
That's funny.
I comment on like every Me Without You thing I can find because they're one of my bands, you know.
Yeah,
I was
bro.
really into.
Oh, we'll have to. That's one next year if I'm continuing the show. I'm hoping to do it. It's
Oh, brother, sister, 20 year.
yeah, I think that's coming up, and like
Ooh.
there's gonna be a lot of people I think that are potentially interested. So
I'm sure.
because they're a hot commodity. Probably, I think they might be the most hot commodity out there. Maybe them and Switchfoot, which is a weird combination to think, but I think those are the ones that fill up fast. So
Pretty diehard fan bases, I think, for them.
I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Just consistent, strong discography, stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And for Switchfoot, it's so big. Like I think they're an easy band to get into. I think for a lot of people, just because they're so unoffensive. Sounds like I'm being negative. I'm trying not to be. I think Switchfoot's fine.
They're accessible.
Yes, that's the right way to put it.
Accessible. Well said.
I'm gonna have to cut this out, or
That's interesting. I love this is gonna sound maybe let me start over.